All right. Howdy, howdy, everybody. Welcome to Office Hours FM episode 114. I am your host, Carrie Dills, and today I'm delighted to bring you another podcaster. His name is Jon Nastor from Hack the Entrepreneur podcast. Jon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Excellent. I'm doing all right. You mentioned it's kind of rainy there, so
it is. It's Canada.
So it's bringing you down?
Yeah, because it's really cold too. Like I've had like sweaters on and stuff today, and like it went from unbelievably hot yesterday to like close all the windows. It's literally freezing cold.
Well, that'll get you a case of pneumonia in a hurry.
Yeah, we live in a land of like extreme weathers, so we get used to it.
Oh, well, thanks for coming on to the show today. Looking forward to getting to chat with you. For those of you who are listening to the show live, I would encourage you to send any questions you have on Twitter using the hashtag OfficeFM, or if you're watching this via over on Google, then use the Google Q&A app to submit your question. And if you're catching this after the fact, well, I'm sure glad that you're taking the time to tune in. All right, so I feel like I'm missing something, that there's something I've forgotten to say. But if it was really important, I'm going to remember it later, I suppose. All right. Well, Jon, for folks that haven't gotten to meet you or take a listen on your podcast, can you just kind of give us a rundown who you are and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. I'm a podcaster now for the past almost 2 years, actually. So I podcast a show. My own show is called Hack the Entrepreneur. Published episode 249 today, and that launched September 5th, 2014. So almost 2 years. It's syndicated across the Copyblogger, Rainmaker.fm network. And I also podcast over there now for the past almost 80 episodes with the showrunner, with Jared Morris of Copyblogger. And we do a show about running our own shows as well. We're luckily on a summer hiatus right now, but yeah, that's what I do. I went from never interviewing somebody in my life 2 years ago to podcasting full time for a living at this point, which feels really weird to say.
Well, first of all, a show about shows. That's nice and meta.
It is. It wasn't my idea, but it sounded cool when I asked. So.
I've had Jared on this show. It's been quite a few episodes back, but great guy. Always enjoyed chatting with him. So you've been doing this coming up on 2 years, and you've already got how many?
249 today.
249. Clearly, because I've been going for 2.5, almost 3 years, and I'm only at 114. So your publishing schedule is on fire, is what this sounds like.
Well, you know, honestly, I believe that like I publish 3 times a week now, and I have for a long time. And I really think that I'm 3 times further ahead than I would have been if I would have published once a week. So at one point in the process, I just decided to go all in and just see where it took me for a year. And now here we are. So.
Cool. Well, we're going to get into some of the nitty gritties of podcasting a little bit later. Last week, I had Lee Jackson on from the WP Innovator podcast, and we got some great insights from him on sort of his routine for publishing, producing, all that good stuff. So I'll quiz you on that later. Nice. But for now, maybe share like what you said you didn't have experience interviewing people, kind of wasn't your thing. What pulled you into that?
I have a fascination and maybe an obsession just with talking business with people and just talking to people doing cool stuff and building cool things. It's literally, I'll get on a Skype call with anyone. I'll sit down for coffee or a beer with anyone. It's something I really, really am into doing. And so if you go back about 2.5 years ago, I was at Chris Ducker, his name is, hosted his first tropical think tank. And there was like 25 of us in the Philippines met. And there was some really smart podcasters there, and I was there. And I was looking for something to do. Like I had been sort of behind the scenes in software, and I wanted to talk business, and I wanted to kind of get out there and sort of start to talk to people, help people, and be more prevalent within the market. And so everyone's like, you got to start a podcast. I'm like, well, you know, like when I record like my daughter on like my phone, like she's doing something funny, if I even say something in the background, I just cringe when it plays back. Like my voice is terrible. I can't handle it. And all these things, like you got to do it, you got to do it. So it took me about 3 months to kind of get my head around it. And then one weekend I was out at the cottage and I reread Gary Vaynerchuk's Crush It. And like 3/4 of the way through, I put it down. I was out on the dock actually by myself and I was like, screw it. I'm starting it. I'm starting a show. I had no idea what it was called or what it was going to be really, but I just went home. That next day was a Monday and I started my first interviews on Thursday. And there were some bad interviews in there that I had to re-record with people. But I spent 2 months over the summer sort of interviewing people. I interviewed like 22 complete episodes done before I launched, and just sort of like figured out, trying to like what I wanted out of a podcast at the time. There was nothing I felt that was doing what I wanted to hear done. So I decided to do that. And I literally just had 30 people I could list off that I want to talk to these people. I want to talk. As soon as I talk to them, I'm done. I'm just going to go back to software and stuff, and it'll be cool, but it'll be a fun thing to do. These people aren't going to talk to me if I'm not recording it for a podcast. So that was it. And then it kind of just gained a life of its own a couple months into it, and I just kept going and pushed it harder. So
That's awesome. So is it pretty much turned into your full-time adventure now?
Right now it's my full-time adventure. Yeah, totally. It has been for quite some time now. Between the 2 shows that I do, between the writing I do around that and everything around it, and just the publishing of typically 4 episodes a week. So 3 for Hack the Entrepreneur, 1 for Showrunner, then webinars and things we have to do around those. So that is what I do at this point, and it kind of shocks me, but it's pretty awesome.
That is awesome. I've talked about it on the show. I think even last week with Lee, and previously with Kim Doyle, who's also a podcaster, that one of the great things about having your own show is you just get to invite really interesting people on that you want to talk to and in their ear for however long in the name of doing a podcast.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're tuning in and you're thinking, man, maybe I should start a podcast, or there's a long list of people you just want to sit down and interview, start a podcast.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. If for no other reason, like I really didn't start a show to like get a lot of people to listen to it and kind of like become like podcast quote unquote celebrity or something. That wasn't at all what I still don't in any way. I probably hamper my show because I really try and stay away from that sort of stuff. I'm just the people, like literally everything I do, even if it's not for my podcast right now, but like I just like am launching a new site like this week, and all these things I do, everything is based around ideas or I'm doing it with people that I met through my show. Whether I interviewed them, whether they were a listener at one point, whether they were just introduced to somebody, like everything is because I just started a show. Almost to the point that if nobody listened to that show, it would still have that effect, because I've literally had conversations with 249 people as of today in like a fairly intimate setting. To me, it's got to go somewhere. Just the relationship I have with like, say, 7 or 8 or 9 of those people now has completely transformed my life. So.
That's awesome. Relationships for the win.
Totally.
And yeah, I believe it was actually, we have a lot of folks in common, but I think it was Kim Doyle who finally made the email introduction, and I'm super glad she did. And I got to be on your show a while back, so I appreciate that. Yeah. So your podcast it's a shorter format and it's audio, not video. Is that ever something you've kind of experimented with format wise? No.
See this? No. This is radio, man. This is all radio.
This is all radio. I like it.
And I didn't even think this was radio. Like my voice, so I guess I could do video if I wanted. Because I didn't think I could do radio, but no, I really dig the audio format. I don't know. If I do Skype just with friends or like my mastermind and stuff, like we never do video. I don't know why. It's just something I think like I don't know. I think I look all weird, and then I get conscious of like how I'm looking rather than just like me trying to think and figure stuff out. And I have to take a ton of notes when I'm interviewing. Otherwise, I can't remember like to try and craft what I'm trying to do. And I know like I'll be looking down, and people like, "Why aren't you looking at me, John? Like we're having a conversation." It's like, well, so I don't think I have it in me to do it. You're great at it, and it's something that I'm sure has benefited you a lot. And I don't think it would benefit me. I think people would just turn it off the video anyways.
Well, I hope you're doing just fine. So, I mean, if you get nervous or something, just put up a piece of tape over your camera and we'll carry on. But no, you're, I think.
No, I don't get nervous. I feel like, I guess because especially I've done so much of it with just audio now that I find myself like just looking off into the distance talking because it's like I'm on the phone with a friend, right? And so it's hard to go back, but it's a whole other medium that, yeah, I mean, it would probably be great. It would probably be a massive place to find more like listeners or viewers on YouTube and stuff, but it's not something I've done yet.
Interesting. Well, on the heels of that, and that may have answered partially this question from Paul. He says, do you see Facebook Live or any other like kind of upcoming tech making a big impact on podcasting?
Yeah, if that's what I mean, to me, it's a great place to do one of two things, right? You can either go wide and try and find new audience in those places. So through Anchor, Anchor's great. I like Anchor because to me, it's audio, right? But it's like Twitter for audio. And then there's Facebook Live, there's Snapchat, there's all the places that you can do the video now. And you can use it in one of two ways, either to find new audience, which I typically wouldn't do it in, but I would use, and I have used those things, and we use webinars to kind of go deep with my audience. So to bring people in through iTunes, bring them into my show, get them to know me a bit, and then invite them to go deeper on subjects through video. I think it's a great medium for that. And I mean, that just goes in with my content strategy though. To me, I only need one focus really or two for going like sort of wide and finding new audience. iTunes treats me really well, brings me a lot of people. And then I get to write for some really great places that also bring me enough audience. So I don't feel like, I think it would sort of detract from those two things if I started trying to go and find people somewhere else as well. So I just use video and those mediums. We do a lot of webinars with Showrunner. I do them with Hack the Entrepreneur and like Hangouts and stuff because I do really, and Blab sessions too, because I think it really helps deepen that relationship, but not so much, Paul, I think is asking it, not so much to go find more people because I have the power of iTunes as a podcaster, which is just tens or hundreds of millions of people looking for stuff all the time. So if you can play that game right, especially, I mean, after 250 episodes, there's a lot of search engine optimization in there that just helps bring me a lot of people every single day.
Well, dang, maybe afterwards you can give me some tips on iTunes and traffic. I've never been, iTunes just picked up your RSS feed and I have my RSS feed distributed through multiple channels. So it's unclear exactly where, if that traffic is coming from YouTube or from iTunes or from elsewhere.
Oh, really? Because I mean, I use Libsyn for hosting. And so mine's very clear. It's like 84 to 86% on average. All my listeners ever, like 2.2 million downloads at some point, have like almost all come exclusively from iTunes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm using a host that shall not be named, but I need to, I've heard multiple people talk about Lisbon, so that might be something.
Yeah, it's like $10 a month. It's super cheap. And the analytics are really, really, really good. I've switched hosting companies too at one point, but I came back because the analytics are brilliant. And so it's proven to me that iTunes is the place that my listeners come from all the time.
Awesome. So you mentioned content strategy in there, and you're part of the kind of copy blogger rainmaker family where content marketing is the thing to do. So you're surrounded by tons of smart people, and you yourself are one of them. But when it comes to that content strategy, is that something that before you ever started podcasting that you kind of mapped out, or is it been something that's evolved? Or can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I had a plan before, only because I had been reading Copyblogger for years, and so I kind of I understood content marketing and just writing for the web and that sort of thing, and then branding from any companies, right? So it was I used those things when I launched Hack the Entrepreneur. Like when I started the idea and I started recording things, I didn't have a name for the show yet. I didn't have artwork. I didn't have any of that stuff. So I came up with all that through the summer, and I tried to brand it well so it fit well. And it's a big market, right? Like entrepreneurship. I didn't go after some subset of it. I went after the big target for a lot of people. So there was a bigger, higher potential. Harder to get traction, but bigger upside potential. And then my strategy really was to put out a lot of shows. And so speeding up, as I said at the beginning, the 3 shows a week, it pushes the algorithms of iTunes. It really does. And there's just that much more content on iTunes when people are searching things, chances of them finding me. It is just how that works. And then it was about 3 months into it when I started writing for Entrepreneur magazine. They offered to me through one of my guests, got me hooked up with that. And then that sort of became my plan. And once I started doing that, and then my show had kind of taken off, people just started asking me to be on shows. And from the very, very beginning, I just consciously refused to say no to anybody who asked me to be on their show. I was never going to be like, how many downloads do you have? How many followers do you have? And there's nothing that annoys me more. And it's fine, we all have reasons maybe why people do that. But to me, it's absolutely not. I'm honored you'll ever ask me to be on your show. If you have one listener and that listener can get something from me and maybe come back to my show and check it out at some point, by all means, I'll give you an hour if that's what it takes. Absolutely. So that was just mostly my strategy, which was producing a lot of content. So I went from a haphazard schedule at about week 8 to 3 times a week solid. It used to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. When I moved over to the Rainmaker Network, they switched it to Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, just because of scheduling over there, but I still stuck to 3 a week. And then I started writing in other places, which then my downloads were climbing, but then it just skyrocketed because I had these massive platforms of people coming, and I just started saying yes to every single show ever. I've been on quite a few podcasts now. Most of them probably don't even exist anymore because that's how most podcasts are. They just drop out. But it didn't matter to me. All those ones just kind of aggregate audience back to me. And so it was really the best that I could do was to just create a lot of content and try and, as I said, that whole going wide, which was through being on shows, writing for other places, and consistently putting out 3 episodes a week. I was finding people in iTunes, finding people on Entrepreneur and Copyblogger and Founder magazine where I could write, and then finding people through people who had already found them themselves with their shows. And that was really my only strategy. Just producing good content that's either educational, entertaining, or somehow going to push you to do something, empowering in some way. But really, that's it. And I think that's honestly that's the Copyblogger sort of philosophy, and that's I think why they brought me on to do stuff with them, was because, well, Brian said he really liked it just because of the fact that I had done it myself. And so to bring me into the network, it wasn't just Copyblogger people doing shows about content marketing. It was well, here's a dude who actually kind of follows what we tell people to do with no help from us, and just literally from nothing, no email list, no anything. And he built something really cool, and we noticed him, and now we want to help push him further. Which is all they've ever done for me, is just give me access to their audience with no strings attached, which is pretty amazing.
That's awesome. And you kind of summed up content marketing nicely, which was saying just put out good information that's either educational or inspirational or pushes people forward. I forget the exact words you used, but that was the gist of it.
Yeah, it's just educate, entertain, or inspire every single time. If you can do 2 of those at the same time, then you're great. But just somehow be funny or entertaining if it's in you, but always be educating people in some way, or else just inspire them to go kick serious ass. and they'll keep coming back. Don't be
awesome. Well, question from Jackie. She asked, what do you see that most people are doing wrong when it comes to content marketing?
Right there, I think that they're thinking about themselves, and they're thinking about how to do things in like bigger ways, right? Like how do I get more social media exposure? How do I get more visitors to my site? How do I get more listeners? They want like 1,000 people paying attention to them before they're worried about that one person. When I said that I'll go on your show if you have one listener that you can prove to me, just one, that's it. It's totally worth it to me. And it should be worth it to anyone who truly cares about their audience to help that one person. And so I think if everything you create, whether it's writing or video or audio, just truly care about that one person at all times. This is something that I ended up bringing into the showrunner stuff, which was the audience of one, which is how I sort of understood my audience before and as I was creating Hack the Entrepreneur. There was that one person that I was like 4 years prior that needed help in understanding, because I had talked to thousands of entrepreneurs at this point in business and in life and just got to talk. And the only correlation I saw was that entrepreneurs aren't anything special. They're just people who are willing to kind of step up and like not know what the hell's going on and just figure it out as they go. And we're cool with it. It's a journey. There's no end destination where here I am, I'm an entrepreneur. And all I wanted to do was show people that in a faster time than it took me that 4 years to realize that. That's my only job all the time. We don't talk tactics. There's tons of shows about tactics. There's tons of shows about all those specifics, but really I just want to kind of humanize people and bring them and expose them to other people so you can hopefully see something inside of them and be like, oh, wow, that's just like me. Maybe I am an entrepreneur. Yeah, you are. Just step up and make something. That's all it is, right? So I think just truly caring about that one person makes it sort of connect, right? And then when you connect with that one person, you can then connect with 10. And then when you connect with 10, you can connect with 50 to 100 to 1,000. And now you're there, but you can't just get from here to there without doing that, with just more and more of that same one person. And I think when you don't try and connect with that also, Jackie, is that you also, I think you don't care enough about what you're creating. And so as I alluded to and said, like with podcasts, most of them, there's numbers get thrown around, but it's like 10 or 15 or 20 shows, all podcasts. That's how many episodes a show does, and they drop out. Because people, I honestly believe it's because you're creating it because you think that it's right for the market, or you think that people will like it. And it doesn't matter to you that you don't like it. And you have to care about the person you're making for, and you have to care about yourself and this thing you're creating, because it should really truly include a part of you. And then you'll work through it. Like there's been times where it's like my downloads drop and it's like, oh my God, it's all over. But I just keep going. I'm going to keep making these. That's just what I'm going to do. And then all of a sudden you get through that. And I know that most people have quit. And then all of a sudden it's like, everything goes through the roof. And it's like, wow, there we go. That's that dip Seth Godin was talking about. Wow. But I think if you don't kind of define that person you're trying to help, then it won't mean as much to you. It won't mean as much to them. And either they're not going to care or else you're not going to care and just stop anyways. And they'll never be able to find you.
Dang,
that was a long-winded answer.
No, that was a brilliant answer. And it's that's solid advice right there. I appreciate that. So when you're talking about the one, that's actually incredibly helpful to kind of think about one instead of everybody. Is the one, you mentioned yourself 4 years ago and what your 4 years ago self could benefit from hearing. Is that sort of the person you have in mind when you step up to the microphone every time?
That's who I had in mind when I started. Because, I mean, we all have to kind of just make an educated gut sort of guess, right? But now I have actual data. Now I have a lot of data because we do a lot of research. My advertising for my show runs through Midroll. So they have a lot of data on my listeners. And my listener is not actually me 4 years ago anymore. It's different, but I still know specifically who she is. And I talk to her every single time. Everything I say is always, this is for you. This is for you. Like everything's for that one person, because I don't think any of us want to feel like we belong to a bigger whole, but we're still one-on-one. That's the intimacy of audio, right? Like walking your dog and having me in your ears talking to you, not talking to you like you're walking your dog with 1,000 other people. So it's really that understanding, and it's before you launch something, you don't know. All you just make that guess, and then kind of take the data and sort of, it's going to evolve, obviously. I mean, as my show evolves, my audience changes, and then I have to kind of keep sort of my finger on that pulse, and decide if I want to change it in a different way or whatever. But it's still always that one. And the best I knew was from like software, which is to like scratch your own itch. And that's literally all I was trying to do with Hack the Entrepreneur. Was I was just tired of the fact that everybody was talking tactics. It's like, well, if I want to Google how to do something, I can do that. I want to know like the mindset, the sort of philosophy of like the lifestyle of an entrepreneur, and like how they think and why, like what pushes them to build stuff. That's what fascinates me. And it truly fascinates me. Like I get excited about talking about it, and I think that comes through in my show. That's what I get told. It's like, it's not false. It's not me faking it. It's not me like, but this will be a really big market, and this like will do really well. It's like, you can only fake that for so long, and then it just becomes apparent. So yeah, I took a guess based on who I was, scratching my own itch, and then I've just listened to the data from there and adapted.
Awesome. Thank you for packaging that. So rolling into, you mentioned, what is it, Midroll? That's who you're using? Okay. And I'm not familiar with Midroll. Is that
So Midroll,
just stats, or is that advertising? And
Midroll does just advertising.
Okay.
So they're like an advertising company. So 99 Designs, all the big ads you hear on shows go through Midroll. Those companies, like rather than running the ad spots themselves, they go through that, and they're like an intermediary. So I just have a place I log in. I see like my whole schedule for the next like 4 months. All the ads are bought. I see who they are. They get the copy for me, and they collect the money, all that stuff. So they're a cool company. And it was funny because when I started, I didn't know anything about any of this. So I launched in September, and right before Christmas, things were going really well for me in my show. And Midroll actually reached out to me and asked me like to join their network. And I was like, no, it's cool. I'm already like, I got sponsors. Everything's cool. I had no idea who they were. And then like afterward, like talking to people, it was like, yeah, I've been trying to get on Midroll. I'm like, just kept hearing this all the time. I'm like, oh, weird. I totally turned them down. I didn't say this to anybody. I'm like, that was kind of foolish of me. But I mean, I ended it well via the email, and the last thing she said was like, anytime you're ready, just come back to us. And so I did the following June. I went back. It took like 2 months to get set up, and then just starting last August. So I've been with them for 12 months now, and they run all my advertising. Unless people come to me separately, but most companies go through Midroll at this point. So yeah, they just make my life.
That's funny. That's like maybe sitting down next to the president at McDonald's and you don't realize
having no clue. Yeah, exactly.
So on the topic of monetization, the vendor asks, he says, direct podcast monetization is tricky. How do you monetize or wrap your services around the buzz created by your podcast?
So direct is hard, he says?
Direct are tricky. So, I mean, because there's different models you can follow. Are you going to go to a company like Midroll that handles it for you? You're going to do more one-off sponsorships, which is the model I've used so far, or is anybody even willing to pay for your show? Maybe that's where part of the tricky part comes in. Yeah. But I guess in terms of monetization strategies, other than Midroll, is there any other direct?
Because I've actually been approached by other ones. I don't even know what their names are, but there are other companies starting up because Midroll did really well. Midroll actually got acquired last year by some bigger company too. So there's direct, which he's talking about, and then indirect. So direct is, to me, it's literally just sponsorships on your show. You get paid. And then indirect is your services, your brand, all the things that lead to me, like showrunner and the showrunner course, to me is all indirect of Hack the Entrepreneur. The only reason why I have it is because of Hack the Entrepreneur, but it's not direct monetization of an episode. So first of all, I don't think it's tricky, direct sponsorships. If you want sponsorships, the model's there. Companies are like clamoring to get onto shows. Like just the buzz around it is huge. You just have to make the right offers to the right people. It's like the idea when you want a job, it's the person who like literally applies to 30 places a day that gets a job in a week because they've now applied to, actually goes back to, it's the person who podcasts 3 times a week gets ahead 3 times faster than the person that does it once a week because I just do more of it. Right? So there's more of it out there. So if you want sponsors, make a day a week or half a day a week, like every Friday afternoon, start gathering up like people you could contact. Don't contact them on Friday afternoon because it's a terrible time because everybody will forget about it. But then Monday morning, just spend an hour sending out, say, 10 emails a week of like a cool offer for sponsoring your show. You will get people to say yes, trust me. Don't worry about your numbers. Numbers are kind of irrelevant. People like to say that they aren't, and I mean, maybe it's easy for me to say because I can get the numbers, but people don't even really ask for it. It's from my very first sponsorship, which was FreshBooks, I did like a partnership sort of deal. So it was like, I'm going to talk about you. I'm going to talk about you on Carrie Dill's show when I'm on it in 2 years. I'm going to talk about FreshBooks. And they still sponsor me to this day. They've been sponsoring me for almost 2 years now. And I had never done any of it before. And I offered like an ad on my site. I offered to talk about them. They sent me t-shirts and hats and stuff. And it was just a cool thing. And it was just, they wanted to help a new show out. And it was just literally me. Again, this goes back to a relationship. I got on the phone with them. We just sparked up a cool relationship and they're happy to pay for it. So I don't think it's that hard. But if you want to go the indirect route, it can be done. It can be done, but it's also kind of hard and doesn't always work super well. So it works super well for short bursts. So if you have a launch coming for something, it works really well. It works good for branding. So if you want to have like if you listen to my show, there's the station ID at the beginning, which is rainmaker.fm. You want to hear more content marketing shows, go here. And it's so sort of beyond like the actual show. It's right before anything even happens that it does work, and it just kind of branding. It just gets in people's heads like, oh, I'm going to go check out that site eventually. So it does work. But if you're just always making like your mid-roll spot or your pre-roll spot on your show and it's your thing over and over and over again, people will just start to gloss over it. Not only just gloss over it, but they'll also get annoyed. So this is something, and it's not just because it's your stuff, but the same thing happened with me with FreshBooks, actually, was about 6 months into it. They were the only sponsor I had, but they kept buying up everything. It was awesome. It was a great deal. It was easy for me. It was easy for them. But about 6 months into it, I started getting like backlash via email and Twitter. Like, dude, like, okay, like I'm sick of hearing about FreshBooks. And it's like, wow, fair enough. I didn't even think about that. I just thought, it's this, like I changed the ad, but it's like, okay, I know when it comes time for me to need invoicing, I'll go to FreshBooks. Dude, chill out, or else I signed up 5 months ago. So you have to watch it. So you can kind of be creative and like put it into launches of either products or like change up sort of what you're offering. What I would do. So if you just want to do your services itself in say like 8 episodes in a row or 6 episodes or 4, depending on how often you're doing it. If you're doing it once a week, I wouldn't go 8 in a row because that's 2 months of listening to about your show. But I would just change it up. And then I would switch it to like just call to action, like get on my newsletter, which is then going to push them into your services, but in a way that's not so just you over and over and over again with an ad spot. So if you want to monetize it through the direct sponsorship. Trust me, you just got to keep trying. Try enough people, you will get people to say yes. You absolutely will. Once you get that first 1 or 2, then you have a track record, then it just gets easier. Then people will actually start reaching out to you because they'll know you take sponsors. It's hard when lots of people don't even want to take sponsors, they say. So it's hard. But otherwise, just do your own ads, but change them up often for different sort of offers. Track those offers so that you know which ones people care about, which ones they don't. The ones that they care about, keep doing. The ones that they don't, get rid of.
Are you tracking those, or how are you tracking those?
I do HTE.io. I bought, because Hack the Entrepreneur, most people can't spell entrepreneur if they're like me. So I just use HTE.io. I couldn't get HTE.com without buying it from somebody, so I got HTE.io/convert is like my convert kit one. So If I ever get an opportunity where there isn't like a pre-roll purchase, then I will do like a ConvertKit ad because it pays well when I do it. And I track those. HTE.io/book was when I was promoting my book, when my book came out on the show, to see. And once you see it drop off on the tracking, it's like, okay, people they've heard it and they don't care. Now I just need to be sort of aware of that and preemptively move to something else before they backlash on me again.
I got you. Let's see. You mentioned when you're talking with potential sponsors, you suggest a cool offer for them. Can you give some examples of what those might be? Is that like an idea for how you would pitch them to your audience, or?
Yeah, so it can be. So I recently put together a top 10. It was like 220 episodes in. And so I wanted people that came into the show now, which are doing it all the time, it's overwhelming, right? It's over 200 episodes. Like, where do I start? So I created a whole separate show, the top 10. I put together the top 10 episodes, handpicked and curated by me, a separate page. And I had talked about this for, I think, since episode 150 or so. So I've been talking about it for a long time. And so one afternoon, I was like, you know what? I'm just actually going to email FreshBooks. I'm going to say, we got a top 10. I'll do like, you can have your 10 tips to whatever you want. Each one will have a different tip. You'll get your own page. We'll push it, all this stuff. And here's how much it'll cost. And of course, it was FreshBooks. So like within like half an hour, they're like, that's awesome. Let's talk on the phone tomorrow. The next day, I like had the money transferred to me, and I was like, I guess I have to make the top 10. And it like completely paid for it. It was awesome. And it was like a significant amount of money. I was like, that was impressive. So in that sense, I did it like that. I created a 10 and they loved it. They were like, man, like a top 10. And so it's like the top 10 tips for small business. And so like episode 1 was step 1. And it was like, it's a cool thing, right? And so they loved the idea of it. And they loved the idea of it's sort of a partnership. So they get exclusive spot on the page. It's always going to be there. And they were just old episodes I'd already put out. We just pulled out the old ads, put in new ads that I read, put in a new station ID that it's part of Hack the Entrepreneur. Go check out the show here. And that was it. So it can totally work in that way. And then you can offer, you'll see people with their Twitter, they'll promote their sponsors. I've never done that myself, but you see people do that a lot. I know people that do that, and they make that part of their offering, that they will promote it on their Facebook, they'll promote it on their Twitter. They might mention it in a newsletter. If you have a newsletter and there's a spot where you can sort of mention these things, those are all things that you just have to like add value to the proposition of sponsoring you. Not just like, I'll only give you this and that's just how it is. It's like, if you think that you don't have enough downloads and that you need to land your first couple sponsors, be creative. Like, think of things, like package it together with something like, you're going to get all this giant box of stuff. It's all virtual, of course, but you know what I mean? Like, just make it, like, incentivize people to want to sponsor you. And like, literally just when you're on air and doing other things, like, don't be afraid to mention your first sponsor in other places and like make them happy for wanting to sponsor you, because other sponsors will hear that stuff and they'll come and they'll ask if they can also have that too. And it's like, well, for a price, yes, but to me, it's partnerships, right? It's just relationships. All of it is just relationships. So really don't just try and grab some money and not give them enough value. You want to make sure that they're going to make way more money back than they're ever going to give you, but you want them to give you a lot of money. So it's, well, of course, right? It's a business, but it just means you have to do more and make it well worth their time, and make sure that, don't take a sponsor just because they're going to pay you a lot of money. Like, I've turned down sponsors that it's like, my audience doesn't want you, or else I don't want to put you in front of my audience. Like gambling sites and weird adult sites that have like approached me, and it's like, no, it's like, it's a bad fit. That's all I can say. Like, so relationships.
Oh, that's funny. You're a hoot. That's some great tips and practical ideas there. I might just be using one or two of those soon. So we're actually a little over the halfway mark here. If you're tuning in late to the show, welcome aboard. I'm chatting with Jon Nastor of Hack the Entrepreneur podcast over at hacktheentrepreneur.com, or for those who don't want to spell entrepreneur, HTE.io. Did I get that right?
HTE.io.
Perfect.
I don't know if it'll take us right there, just HTE.io. I only use it for shortening links. I wonder if it actually goes right to my page. Hack the Entrepreneur.
We'll test that out. So shifting gears a little bit, podcasting is not all you do, and your content marketing is not all you do. You are also involved with WordPress and have a product called Velocity Page. Matt Medeiros has a question from you, and it's just, what's up with Velocity Page?
We shut it down like 4 or 5 months ago.
Wow. Well, I'm incredibly off topic and late to the party with that question.
The page still exists, but yeah, it was just one day we were, Mark and I were just on a call, and I was like, yeah, dude, like I've been completely taken over by all this stuff, and then Mark's been taken over with other stuff. So yeah, we just agreed to, I believe it's either on the repository or going there. Somebody was telling us we should have sold it to them, but we didn't. But yeah, I think the code is all going to the repository at some point to make good of it, whoever wants to. But yeah, no, it was fun. We're still supporting the customers we have. That's why the site is there. Just the buy page is down. And so yeah, Matt, the market's all yours, man. You've created something way better than we have. And so we realized it, and we're moving on. Or we have moved on. We have totally moved on.
Well, this is awkward.
I'm out of the WordPress business for the time being right now. And probably for the foreseeable future, I think.
Is that more due to your time and, you can only throw so much energy at things, or as a business itself, it wasn't something that was keeping your passions, or
right?
Or you
yes. So I'm gonna say the time ended up being that we both just focused on other things for too long, and we kept like, oh, let's put it off, and then one of us gets super busy, then the other one, it was just to the point where it's like the product has gone on too long, not getting developed like it should. We had a great roadmap for it, but it's whatever. It's our fault. It's probably my fault. I'll take the blame, Mark. It's cool. But yeah, so our passions ended up other places. We were happy. We were really excited about it. And then we just got distracted and busy. And some weird business things happened like a year and a bit ago. And like there was almost some investment, and then and that took like a whole bunch of months to figure out, and then it all kind of crumbled at the end, and from there we just kind of scattered and didn't really do it. So that's why we just called it quits. And now I'm not in the WordPress business for any like actual reason. I mean, I work with Rainmaker FM, so that's on top of WordPress, but other than that, yeah, I have a new product comes out this week, but it's passion, it's music. And so it's the first time I've moved out of like the business or marketing sort of space and just moved straight into not my true passion, but something that I'm just like, I've been fascinated talking to entrepreneurs building in like tech in the music space, and it inspired me to do it myself.
Okay, so do tell.
Yeah, so I created this a site called Showlist. So showlist.io. And it's very, very MVP, but I believe we might actually open it up tonight. We've had beta testers in there for a couple of days, but it's basically going to become like the Goodreads of live shows, live concerts. So all the bands you've ever seen, you can create your show list. All the bands you want to see, you can rate them, you can comment on them, and then share it. So it's showlist.io/@Johnny. Yeah, I believe that's my actual show list. You can see like the shows I've seen, the venues and everything. And yeah, it's cool. Been working on it for almost 2 months now. And we go live, I think, tonight. So that's totally, besides podcasting and that, and then also my family's moving at the end of the month to Toronto. I've been busy. So, but no WordPress right now.
No WordPress. Well, I will strike that from the record and the show notes. It never happened. And I'll blame Matt Medeiros for edging you out of the market, and we'll
It's
send
good,
him.
man. He did a good job. He did a damn good job. Yeah, ht.io doesn't go anywhere. ht.io/convert does. If you want to buy ConvertKit. Sorry. Somebody on Twitter was just, ht.io itself doesn't redirect yet. I'll redirect that. I only use it /converter/rainmaker if you wish.
My listeners are on the ball, man. If you got to throw a URL out there, they're gonna test it out. Awesome. Okay, well we can shift gears yet again. So, congrats, by the way, on your upcoming launch. It's always exciting to set sail to new things and see what sticks. Yeah. But I think to your point, like you said earlier, if you're doing something that sorry, somebody's trying to call me. When you're doing something that you're passionate about, it's easy to pour your time and your energies into it. And if you're doing it just because you think it'll be popular and you don't care anything about it, then yeah, that's
exactly. So I lost passion for one thing, and I've always been passionate about music. I'm a complete music nerd, and so Show List has me like just fascinated. So it's cool. I'm happy. I'm in a happy place right now.
Excellent. Well, let's get back to the podcast and talk tech for a second. So, what's your pre-recording? Do you batch record or?
I do recordings on Tuesday for the most part. Just Tuesdays. So I do 3 to 5, depending on the week. I try and do more than the 3 that I would need. Like the 3 I do this week. Won't be for this week, but I still try and do more than I publish because I do like to travel, and so I need those times usually away from the microphone. So I like to kind of get ahead of schedule. So Tuesdays, I think Mondays are somewhat available for me, but again, that's totally changed. When I started, nobody knew who I was, and so I wasn't going to be the guy like, I want you to come on my show, but it has to be at my time. It was like literally. It was anytime. Like if you need to do it at Sunday night at 4 a.m, by all means, just let me know. I will be there for you. But now it's just sort of come down to I can make people fit into my schedule, which is really nice.
Definitely. And then what are you? First of all, are you doing your post-production work, or do you have?
No, I stopped at episode I think 28. I hired the same guy. He's out of Portugal, Lisbon. Who actually just got to meet back in June. I went and met him, which is really cool. But yeah, he does all my editing, and then I have a publisher that does the publishing for it. So I just do the recordings.
Oh, that's excellent, because it's kind of like entrepreneurship, right? You show up and you have to wear a ton of hats, and maybe you don't really like wearing the accounting hat. You want to paint pictures or whatever your craft is. And it's
I want to know what an
podcasting.
accounting hat looks like.
You know what? It's like a dollar sign, and it's got cup holders on the ear where you can put your beer and straws to, something like that.
And I mean, maybe that's looking deeper. Maybe that's a reason why so many podcasters stop too, right? We start because we love the conversations, or we love whatever it is, like being able to just teach whatever kind of format we're doing, but that's such a small portion of being a podcaster. And publishing a good show takes so much stuff, like from editing to like show notes to promotion to emails to people and like an artwork, and it's like, oh my god. So I thankfully, as soon as I got my first sponsor, it was to pay for that stuff, and that's just been part of it ever since.
Awesome. And did you find people to help you based on referrals, or were you just like scouring
Upwork?
Okay.
Yeah, Upwork. It was actually called what at that point? Oh, Upwork just changed, right?
It did, and
yeah, I can't even. I used it for years as that. So that's where I found my editor. Based on great reviews and stuff, and then editing a couple of my shows for me. And yeah, it was basic. I mean, to me, it was just basic project management. If I want to get something built, I just put people they're better at it than I am. Like that's just how it is. Like better editors, better writers, just so it makes the end product better than I could do it myself. So yeah, I definitely use team.
Awesome. I have a small team, but I think it's going to start growing here soon because those aren't my fortes. All the I just like getting on the show.
Yeah, I have a killer editor if you want it, or if anybody wants it. He's awesome.
All right, I will definitely take that from you. Got a question here. Look to see, has anyone ever said no to you when you asked them for an interview on your podcast? And if so, did they share the reasons why?
Oh, yeah, totally. So Seth Godin said no. He was one of my first 30. And that summer, he said no to me. And then about 3 months later, I got him on the show, which was really cool. But yeah, he said no. Lots of people, especially, said no at the beginning. So I did a little trick at the beginning, though, because I sent off, I'm going to say about 10 emails, and 2 people, I think, said yes. And then, I mean, it was like literally, can you be on my show? I don't know what it's called, and it's coming out in 2 months, hopefully, was kind of my pitch. So it wasn't probably the best pitch, but then I started recording like 2-minute long videos just on my laptop, one take only. And these were 30 people that I had known, like not known, but I know their work. I know what they're up to. I've read their book, whatever it is, follow their businesses. So I truly, like, it was like one-on-one. And so I just made a pitch to each of them, like, here's why you'll be awesome on my show. Here's like why I can launch it, because I've launched this and done this. And so it's like, it's going to come out and it'll do well. And those worked amazingly well. There was several people who are actually like, no, can't do it, sorry. Because I mean, at that point it was like, and it's like now, it's just everybody wants you to be on their show, right? It's just an endless sort of thing. And so then people would like, oh, wow, I just saw the video you sent. That's, yeah, sure, I'll be on your show. That's awesome that you did that. It was like totally just like off the cuff, like me personally talking to them. So I did that at first. But I mean, it's like finding sponsors. It's like finding customers for your business. It's like anything. People are going to say no to you. The better you, or bigger or more popular you get, the more people say yes to you. But you only get there if you're willing to have people say no to you over and over and over again. And yeah, I probably like cried at night because, just kidding. No, I didn't. I really, it doesn't bother me that much. I don't take it personally, right? I mean, I could have given up on Seth Godin, but I didn't. And actually, when I ended up writing a book this past year, he did the blurb on the back for me, which is really cool. But it's because I kept at him. He said no, and he said no, but then he said yes. So just don't stop. If there's somebody you really want to be a customer or be on your show, then keep on them. And like, it's a relationship. I don't want to just say this over and over again, but it's just a human being to a human being. Like, make it, like, tell them why. Why is it going to value them or benefit them? And it doesn't have to be because you have a massive audience, because I've already just told you that if you have one person that's going to listen, but you have a good sort of like idea of what your show is or who that one person is, and you tell me that, and they fit like who I'm looking for, by all means, let's do it. And if I feel your passion for it, even, by all means, let's do it. But if it's just like, oh, here's generic, like, oh man, you sent like this out to 100 people, you don't know who I am, you don't care, all that stuff, yeah, then like, of course. But people are going to say no. People are going to say no all the time. But it's just part of the game. But you know, I won't say no to you.
There you go, guys. Ask it on your podcast. Let's see, we've got a follow-up question. How do you create a list of people that you'd like to have on your show? Or are you stalking people on Twitter, or just kind of staying involved and seeing what's happening in the industry? Or how do you find these people? So
again, this was literally like for me at the beginning, right? So that first 30 was, those people, every single one of them has been on my show at this point now. But those were the first people I wanted. It took, I think, about 14 months for me to get all 30 of them. But I knew who those people were. And then I just had to pay attention. And I literally got into a process where when I'm reading something on Medium, or when I come across something in a podcast and somebody interests me, or even I see just like some new software on Product Hunt, or comes across my Twitter stream, and it's just like, or I find that I'm using this cool app, it's like, I'll just like send it off to, actually I don't have my VA anymore. We parted ways last month, but until then, and I'm looking for a new one, but until then it was just like, we need to find this person and get this person on the show. And then there was a process where she would like introduce us and we would do it. But it's also the thing where I'm blessed now, the fact that, I mean, I'm 250 episodes in and I get a good size audience. And so my inbox literally fills up with people, either past guests referring new cool people or people or PR agencies or book agents, people. And so I can sift through now. I only need 3 a week. And I created this for myself in the fact that I love having conversations with people doing cool stuff. And so I'm still fascinated by it. So I'm still reading Medium all the time. I'm still reading new books. I'm still using new products. And those are all being built by people. And all of those people I want to have on my show. And I can only still have 3 of them a week. So there's never a problem. But I mean, if you're doing a podcast about something that you're not into, then yeah, it could be hard. But I mean, if you want to find authors and stuff, I mean, I used to go to barnesandnoble.com and there's like a upcoming books section and you can go through there and see the next books coming out in the next year. You contact those people like as they're leading up to a book launch, everybody will say yes to be on your show. Even the biggest name authors will say yes, especially if you get a hold of their book agency, because the book agency has to get them to come on your show. It's their job and they'll push that person to get onto your show. And I used to score some big names doing that kind of stuff. But I don't have to do that anymore. And it's just because I'm fascinated with the market. I'm fascinated with the people. And there's not enough time for me to have everyone that I want to have on my show, unfortunately. But
you need a new podcast.
But I'm not going to more than 3 a week. I'm just not, it's too much.
We got time for one more question here. And this one comes from Mike Hale. He asked, if you have a bad guest, does it still air? And has there been anything that didn't get published?
Yeah, lots hasn't got published. So when people sign up, there's like a process they have to kind of go through and read what's kind of expected and some questions I might ask, who my audience is. And then you have to check a box that says, one thing that I can use this in videos, I can use this in presentations or in books later if I want to. And also that it's not you and it's not me, but it's a true conversation we're having. And if the conversation, I can't expect and you can't expect for us to sit down at coffee and me to sit down with everyone and it kind of just to have that spark that's kind of interesting and engaging. If you're distracted for some reason or if I'm distracted for some reason and it doesn't go the way it needs to go for the listener, then it doesn't get published. If it's my fault, then I'll try and redo it with you at a later date and we'll see if we can do it. If it's your fault because you're distracted for other reasons, that sucks, but yeah, we can't do it again. And I don't have to let you know that it's not coming out if I don't want to, because you've already agreed to it. But that's something I've been really, really, really strict on because I don't fake it. I'm really, truly into the conversation. If I'm not into this conversation, I don't see why my listeners should be. So therefore, why am I releasing this? I think it would harm me. It would harm the guest because there's something they're not going to connect with my one person properly. And so you just have to do it. You have to stick to your guns on those things. And that goes back to that first summer before I launched. Like lots of those people I got to come back on. I talked to them. It's like, okay, no, now I've actually changed questions because I've given out these ones to people and like trying to like figure out sort of the flow of it. I've never interviewed anybody in my life. I didn't tell anyone that, but I told my friends that. And so they came back on and tried to fit the format. But also you'll hear like my first 50 episodes, it's kind of all over the place. Like it's really evolving quickly. I'm kind of like getting feedback from people and trying to find my groove. And then I did it, but there's a lot of people that their episodes just didn't make it. But I mean, I want half hour of your time over Skype, audio only. So I don't think it's a big investment that if it doesn't get out, it's just something that can't happen. So stick to your guns, Mike.
There you go. And and actually it was probably Mike's wanting to know if his episode's going to be aired with you, but Mike, that's on the cutting room floor.
Mike, yours is not on, Mike. Not yet.
Unfortunately, we have come to the end of an hour. And so I'm going to let you go and let the listeners get on with their days. But before I do, first, thank you so much, Jon. Awesome stuff. I need to go and immediately listen to it again so I can soak in all the things because I wasn't taking notes.
Okay.
And let's see, if you want to, anybody tuning into this, if you're hearing it after fact, you can always go over to officehours.fm and check out the show notes for the episode or catch the video replay. Jon, where can people find you or follow up with you or say hello?
Twitter is really cool. So at Jon Nastor, or hacktheentrepreneur.com, or just email me, I guess, if that's easier, Jon@hacktheentrepreneur. Also come straight to my little cellular telephone. Whatever way works best for you. But I'm around. You'll find
Awesome.
me.
Thanks so much, man.
Fun.
I enjoyed chatting with you.
That was fun. Thank you very much.
So, bye, guys.